And especially when you do something 3,000 times from a mistake, what does that look like, right? Which is also this huge commentary on like where we are in the world and where we are socially and politically. All right, here we go. We'll see it when we come around the corner. It's the big glass one sticking out. It's a bit of a greenhouse, but it's mine. I'm still learning about the space and figuring out how I want to use it and how I want to organize things. I wanted to make a bunch of embroideries that were me size, so I had to make hoops that I could lay down inside of. And that's where all these wooden ones are from. And then I had the wood, so I said, okay, let's just do them all nested, so I have all the sizes. And I've since made several different sculptures on using these hoops of different kinds. Never done an embroidery, haven't done an embroidery yet. And then when I was finishing at the Angewandte, I realized I only had like 6 more months to use the workshops. So I said, I have to go make some more hoops before I have to pay so much for them. It was actually an error in production, this kind of more angular shape than the round hoops. But I ended up really liking the shape. And I tend to work a lot with errors in my work. If something gets messed up, I don't fix it. Because I think so much of my work is about extrapolation, like what happens when you do something, you know what something looks like when you do it 4 times, but what happens when you do it 3,000 times? One of the first things I did when I got to Vienna was a sculpture for the Natural History Museum. There was a show with the Hubble telescope, and so I did a piece called The Great Wall, which was from steel and plexiglass, painted plexiglass. And so these are actually the negatives. So this is actually what the piece, the actual map looks like, and then I kept the leftovers, which they were going to throw away or melt back down. I have to put them together like a puzzle first, and then I'm going to draw on them. And I love the patina, so I'm really interested in how things age. I'm not really precious with my materials. I like when things kind of disintegrate or rot or fall apart. I think that's interesting and beautiful. These marks are from the production. Like this is probably grease from the hand of the guy who cut the brass. It's kind of cliche to talk about the macro to the micro, but these giant structures in space then also kind of mirror these tiny, 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 minuscule geometries in microbiology. So I'm also working with bacterial cellulose. A lot of my embroidery kind of echoes the shape of and the actual geometry of atoms. These are some embroideries from my show, Generational Weight, that I had last year. These are really about, these are a combination of the bacterial cellulose and embroidery. This one really speaks to the kind of the choreography of healing from trauma. So again, these, the mistakes, these holes, these scars, these kind of stains in the material, to work with them rather than trying to repair them. And this one is more about how the kind of unknown, unknowable, invisible lives of our ancestors, the effects that they can have on ours, both through how we are now situated in our lives, where we're born, what our families look like, what our skin looks like, but also this concept of epigenetics and how memory is passed down through our DNA. How we can be affected by things that happened to our great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, grandmother, and we don't even know. We don't even know that we're reacting to things in a certain way because we have these memories stored in our DNA. So I'm also thinking about these concepts a lot in my work, especially the more recent bodies of work that have this more craft and heritage practices. So this starts with like a single stitch that goes into 2 double stitches, that goes into 4 triple stitches, that goes into 8, 16, 32, 64, 128 until it just extrapolates. But essentially, this last line is how many great grandparents we have. And thinking about the volume, because if this is me, these are my parents. My parents had 2 parents. I mean, we're not talking about family structures, obviously. We're talking about DNA, that it takes 2 sets of DNAs to create a human. And so this many people, this many sets of DNA have kind of funneled into mine. And how many memories and experiences in all of these lives and landscapes have the potential to be saved in my DNA. A good visual, these like SCOBY samples. Also, I like to, so these are kind of samples from the old SCOBY tanks that I had. And a lot of this material, I also really like to work with salvaged materials. So like a lot of this yarn is from people who have passed away. I don't really like to buy new yarn or new cord, just go to the store and buy it. So like a lot of this I got from Vera. She was a weaver, and when she passed away, her grandson was selling her loom and all of her yarn. So I was able to get all of her yarn, because then this yarn kind of has a sense of soul and it has a resonance already, rather than just buying new stuff. And like this, all of this came from one collection that I got from one place. So it just feels a little bit, and I would ultimately like to make work where I use all of it at once rather than taking it apart. But there's so much soul and so much personality in some of these collections. You know, she actually collected these samples. You know, Vera, like, she wound all these balls and used them, plastic, all this stuff. So there's something really wonderful about using materials that are not just straight off the shelf. They have a resonance already.